And speaking of lots of horsepower, one of the most popular breeds of race car in motorsports, these are funny cars. The plastic-bodied, supercharged, alcohol-burning machines. It'll be Richard Bell, the number 5 qualifier at 6.62 seconds, and he will be racing Herb Rogers, the first time he's ever qualified for an important NHRA national event at 6.91 seconds. So these are 200-mile-an-hour rockets as well. New Hampshire's Richard Bell in the near lane, the far lane, a Canadian driver. That's Herb Rogers, and Rogers moves too soon. A red light, he's disqualified, but I tell you, Richard Bell's not taking it easy. He might not have seen the red light in the other lane, but we see it on the Christmas tree starting system right now. So Bell advances into round number 2 with his Pontiac Trans Am, and we're set for our next pairing, Brock.
And it's a big one, Steve. We've got Bob Gottschalk, the world champion, in that yellow car. That's an 82 citation. I'd recognize it anywhere, I think. And that's Fred Hagen in the far lane.
They do kind of look alike, don't they? Hagen's a 41-year-old garage owner from the Chicago area. You find a lot of alcohol funny cars in that region of the country, and this is the world champ. Bobby Gottschalk qualified number 2 with a very quick 6.51 second elapsed time. While they're backing up these funny cars after the burnout, let's go down to the turnoff where Brock is with Richard Bell.
Dick, congratulations.
Thank you.
687-205.
That's not bad. Had a little bit of tire shake, though. Gonna have to do a little work on the clutch, and we'll be back for the next one.
Okay, well, good luck on the next one.
Thank you.
Well, hoping that he also will be back for the next one is the world champ Bob Gottschalk, the yellow car here. I had a chance to talk to Bob before the race about his strategy here in the first round. Well, Bob Gottschalk, last year you won the world championship, and now you've got to re-earn that number 1 spot.
I think we can still hold on. We're doing pretty good here. We're qualified number 2.
All right, tell me about the fellow you're going to race, and how's that going to go?
Fred Hagen is a pretty good running car. He runs out of a lot of circuit races and runs out of the Chicago area. He's probably got one of the best cars in that area.
All right. Fred Hagen's showing some real strength. Looks like Gottschalk may have his hands full, Steve.
But look at Bob fly on the other end as he runs away from Hagen. I don't like the look of that smoke out of the engine, though. 6.66 seconds, 196 miles an hour. Not a very good speed. There may be some serious problems internally in the world champion's car.
You know, Steve, drag racing is deceivingly simple. A lot of people think that longer races are more complex, but they're not. It's just that all this action of a big, long race is condensed down into a matter of a few milliseconds.
One half of our next pairing is going to be Bob Elliott, one of 2 Canadian drivers to make this 16-car field, driving a Dodge Charger 2.2. Opposite him will be Joe Camella, qualified number 15 at a not very quick 7.07 with his Corvette from Parma, Ohio. Before Joe Camella crawled into this dazzling-looking black Corvette, had a chance to talk to him about his role here, really, as an underdog up against Elliott. Joe, you're not the quickest qualifier in the field, to be sure, number 15. Does that put a little extra pressure on you to really leave on time, try to get the advantage off the starting line?
Oh, yeah, it definitely does, yeah, sure. It takes a little pressure off of him because he knows I'm not doing that well, but it gives me a little advantage there, too, because he's confident that he's going to beat me.
Did you guys work all night trying to get you some more horsepower?
Oh, yeah, we've been working on it, yeah. Camshaft change, and we made a bunch of changes to it. I hope that really works out.
Well, we're going to find out right now because Bob Elliott's going to be quite a test for Joe Camella. Elliott in the Northern Force car, inching into stage. Camella also allowing his car to just creep forward. They're ready. We've got a green light start, and Camella is right there with Elliott. Camella is making a race out of this. Elliott all over the racetrack. How about it? Camella's guys did find some horsepower overnight as he improves tremendously, and we've got some oily tires here, apparently the engine exploding, and but coming to a safe stop is Bob Elliott. No harm, no foul. You wonder how some of these drivers even see out of these cars.
Wally knew there was a growing number of speed-hungry street riders with no place to race. These were everyday men and women who just enjoyed fast cars, high-performance engines, and the thrill of competitive racing. By starting the NHRA, Wally was able to offer these people a safe place to race, off the streets and on the drag strip. And at the same time, he made drag racing a true spectator sport. Over the years, the NHRA has grown to become the largest sanctioning body in the world with more than 37,000 members from all 50 states and many foreign countries. As the sport evolved, an elite group of professional drivers and race teams has emerged. And last year, more than 500,000 spectators attended the 11 NHRA national events. But even with all the glory surrounding the professional racers, the real backbone of the NHRA are still the sportsman racers. The working men and women like those Wally remembers from 1951, who enjoy drag racing as a hobby as well as a sport. These drivers aren't after the big money purses. For them, the real thrill is the pride of owning and building a high-performance race car, the camaraderie, and the competition of heads-up drag racing. It's these everyday people that make the NHRA great, and thanks to Wally Parks, they now have a safe place to race. Stick around, and a little while later, I'll get a chance to talk to him. But for now, it's back to the script. Fellas?
Thank you, Ed, and we're happy to give the spotlight to the sportsman racers such as these alcohol funny car competitors. Brock, we've got another international confrontation here. In the far lane is Barry Patton from Nova Scotia.
Yeah, he's a 39-year-old airline captain, which is kind of a unique occupation in this field. Barry out of Waverly, Nova Scotia, way up north. He's running an 83 Cavalier-bodied alcohol funny car. There's Don Gerardo. He's a familiar name in this sport. He's a speed equipment manufacturer in his 83 Camaro. Keith Black engine in that one, Steve.
Gerardo is a former national champion, a former world champion. Here you see him pumping that hand brake, just inching that car forward to stage it. In the opposite lane is the gentleman from Nova Scotia. They're off right together. The Canadian hanging in there in the far lane, but Gerardo just out-muscles him on the top end of the racetrack. Boy, I'll say 659 at 210 miles an hour, but trailing an awful lot of oily-looking smoke. May have heard some pistons in that aluminum motor. So it's a long trip back to Nova Scotia for Barry Patton.
And we've got another pair staging at Pat, the Mouse Walsh from Upper Darby, Pennsylvania, closest to us. And in the red car, Phil Cerrone in an 83 Omni-bodied automobile, Steve.
Now, the crewman here is performing an important function, Brock, backing that car up in exactly the same tracks that it burned out. That's the purpose of the burnout, is to heat up the tires and also to put down some hot, sticky rubber to improve the racetrack. So the burnout's useless if you don't back up properly. Phil Cerrone backed up properly in qualifying to a 6.61 elapsed time to match up with Pat Walsh's 6.87. So it's Walsh who may well be gambling on a hole shot, playing those lights just as hard as he can. Here we look right down the barrel of the fuel injection, bolted to the supercharger, which is belt-driven at almost 50% faster than the engine speed. So if the engine's turning 8,000 in the lights, the supercharger is probably turning about 12.
Walsh's car carries a Rodec block in his, while the Cerrone car's got a Keith Black engine. A lot of Keith Black engines in this class, Steve.
A very popular engine in the supercharged ranks. A tremendous start by both drivers. Pat Walsh in the near lane, Phil Cerrone in the far lane. It is Walsh by just a little over a car length. 6.91 seconds at exactly 200 miles an hour, using both chutes and added safety precaution. So Walsh will be around the stage for the second round. And we move on in alcohol funny car competition.
And we've got Lou Winters out of Cleveland, Tennessee in the Cherokee Warrior against Eric Caskey, Hilton Head, South Carolina, the Raging Bull.
Lou Winters playing peekaboo with our camera here, his head sticking through the escape hatch in the roof of the car, as you said, out of Cleveland, Tennessee. His opponent, Eric Caskey, is a restaurant owner, driving a Dodge Challenger, and he just did make this field in that last available spot, number 16. So it's Caskey in the far lane. It'll be Lou Winters in the near lane.
You know, Steve, I think people may misunderstand a funny car in that you don't have to have the bodies match the engines. They can be anything you want. Run what you brung.
As long as it's got alcohol in the tank and nothing more than alcohol, you're okay. 1,500 horsepower these supercharged engines develop, and it is Lou Winters in the near lane. In the far lane is Eric Caskey, and it's a good race till half track when something apparently goes wrong with Eric Caskey's car. Lou Winters probably never saw him all the way down the racetrack. At 670, 206 miles an hour for Winters.
Okay, and we see the rear end of Rex Stevens' car, and a very familiar little statement up there. He who snoozes, loses. That's certainly a reference to that, using that Christmas tree lighting system. If you blink an eye, you lose, Steve.
Rex Stevens is a rookie in this alcohol funny car competition, but not so in the far lane. It's this man, Gary Henderson. He's won a lot of important races, qualified well at a 6:57 for the Tennessee driver, in one of the prettiest cars in the sport. Rex Stevens, get this, Yates, is from Oblong, Illinois.
As opposed to parallelogram or triangle, Illinois, where one of my hometowns. But yeah, he's in an 83 Challenger bodied car, 29 years old. He's a mechanic. He's up against a very tough man with Gary Henderson and the Wizard.
And Henderson can be a wizard on the lights, but not this time. Rex Stevens may have moved first, but to no no avail as he gets too close to the center line. If you cross that center line, you can be disqualified. So he eased up on the throttle, and it cost him. Gary Henderson takes the Wizard into round 2 at 6:58, well over 200 miles an hour.
This is WSJT-TV, Vineland.
Frank Manzo out of Morganville, New Jersey, an 82 Trans Am. Runner-up in the world last year, #1 qualifier here at the Gator Nationals. He's up against Bogey Kell out of Adela, Alabama. Steve had a chance to talk to them both earlier.
Frank Manzo, you're the #1 qualifier among the alcohol funny cars. Some say that's a jinx to be #1.
Well, last year I qualified #1 most of the time, and I did okay. I like being #1.
Do you worry sometimes when you run that quick and quicker than everybody else that maybe you're on the ragged edge? Is something going wrong?
Sometimes, yes, but this weekend I think we can go a little bit faster.
Tell me about your competition in the first round. How's this going to go?
Well, Bogey Kell got a good car. He's a good driver, and you never know what could happen out there. It's, you know, it'll be a good drag race.
All right, you're racing the #1 qualifier. This isn't going to be an easy one.
It's not. They all, you know, pretty hard. Manzo, he's tough. It's a tough field here. He's one of the best. And now's the time for us to step up when you get a guy like him, see.
You're going to try to leave on him, is what you're telling me, huh?
That's right. Cut a good light on him. Step this thing up. I'll surprise him.
Well, Bogey's going to step it up on old Frank, he says, and he's going to have to do that because Manzo is one of the toughest alcohol funny car drivers in the business. So as they're staging, we'll watch this thing go, Steve.
Taking another brief little burnout is Frank Manzo behind the starting line, just again trying to get the tires clean. There you get a look at the butterfly-style steering wheel, the handbrake with a fancy wooden handle, and that was the parachute release that was mounted to the brake handle. Bogey Kell formerly campaigned an alcohol dragster. In fact, about 3 years ago, he won this very race, the Gator Nationals.
So we got two very experienced drivers here. Manzo happens to be a little bit quicker in qualifying, but as we've seen earlier with the alcohol dragsters, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a sure winner.
Well, let's see if he can do what he hopes to do, and that's step up. In the Southerner, Bogey Kell from Alabama, New Jersey driver Frank Manzo. Quite a contrast between these two drivers. Not only just in accent, but in driving style and their approach to the mechanical into the sport. And they leave right together. Manzo in the near lane. Bogey Kell is falling back. It is Frank Manzo. But I guarantee you can hear Bogey Kell back there about a car length. We'll be back with more alcohol dragster and funny car competition here at the Gator Nationals